What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Talking Halos. I'm your host today, Jared Timms, and I'm joined alongside my co-host, my partner in crime, Nate Green. Nate, we're forgetting about you. Actually, you could probably just get out of here because I'm not going to talk to you at all tonight.
Sounds good.
I know. We are joined by the world famous friend of the show, friend of ours, Taylor Blake Ward. World famous, by the way, if you didn't catch that. How you doing, Taylor?
Hey, boys.
Thank you so much for joining us. As always, the yearly joining us, by the way, as both you and I, and hopefully everybody else knows, international time to talk some fun stuff that won't be relevant for another 4 or 5 years, but we still like to talk about it. Nate, I'll come back to you. How you doing?
Doing good. Good to see you, TBW.
The world famous.
Hey, buddy.
All right, before we get going, go ahead, follow us on all our social medias. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe. You can follow myself on X at Jared_Timms, Nate at NateGreen34. Taylor, spew it off. Tell everybody where they can follow you. Oh, the book is up there. I also show the book.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, X, whatever. Taylor Blake Ward. Follow our work at the Sporting Tribune. Great staff. Starting to collect our winter stuff so we can be ready for the season.
Sports Tribune, you guys do a fantastic job. You're selling yourself short, by the way. You also do Baseball America. You have to tell them you do Baseball America too.
Yeah, freelance with Baseball America. Did the handbook this year. The handbook, I think, is ready, or the digital copies are ready. Baseball America. If you want to pick up a handbook, I wrote the Angels chapter, and I do want to give a shout out. This is the Mentone Cream Ale.
Ooh.
It's probably backwards based on the way that the camera is, but that is Brent McGuire's brewery.
Yes,
Smudge Pot Brewery in Redlands. So enjoying that while we have a quick conversation.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to finish this whole thing, now, but so be it.
I don't know about that. I don't know if I believe you there. We'll see. We'll see how far you get. We'll see how long you can handle.
If Nate, my computer's on my lap moving around, but if Nate started asking questions, you're going to see me down that thing, chugging it.
That's what I was going to say. Let's see how long you can handle negative Nate while I'll play the drinking game.
Yeah. Let's play the game.
the Talking Halos drinking game.
All right. So let's get it going here. Like I said, I think it's one of the best times of the year besides the NMLB draft and opening day, obviously. But international free agency is upon us here. Taylor, thank you for joining us, talking a little bit of international free agents. We will get to it here in a second. We have, I'd say, a good chunk of it. I don't think we have everybody quite, but we have a very good chunk of it. We know who's signing where. Obviously, when this is coming out, a lot of these signings would have already happened. So you can go check it out on Twitter or X. You can look up Taylor Blake Ward. You can look up myself. You'll probably see just a whole bunch of scouting reports, all that fun stuff. You can also listen to us here and get all this fun stuff. But before we go over all those international signings, there's a theme with the Angels, and they used to be really, really good at the international side of stuff. You look at guys, just names that pop into my head from probably Nate and ours childhood. You're not that much older than us, but when you first started doing your reporting, I know I'm making you feel old. I'm sorry. But you guys like Eric Ibar, Kendrys Morales, Francisco Rodriguez, Irvin Santana. The list goes on of those guys in the, late thousands to early, thousands to or 2000s to, probably the early 2000s. The Angels were very good at the international side of things. I feel like they, in a sense, kind of almost broke that barrier for a lot of teams. And in a sense, I know the Yankees are very good, but and this is going to be a loaded question for you. Why do you think the Angels haven't quite been that good at the international side of things of late?
Probably more development than I think getting players. I mean, they are targeting some high dollar players. You think back to the last half decade. Errol Vera was a top in his class. Adrian Placencia, Denzer Guzman. Some of these guys haven't come to fruition or anything. Guzman, Rada. But yeah, for a while there, I mean, you talk about Roberto Baldacchini signing the restrictions that they had for a long period of time, and I believe that signing was made in 2014, 2015. It was like a 4-year gap where they really struggled. I mean, it was Trent DeVoe was a guy that was a thing, but they took some high risk guys, and maybe they didn't focus so much on the hit tool and the strike throwing abilities. They did hit on guys like Jose Suarez and Jaime Barria uniquely. But yeah, I mean, you talk about the money figures impacting them for a while, and I don't know if you guys can hear my dog lapping up water. I apologize for that, but um, yeah, I mean, when you're not at the top of the market, and then when you struggle to develop at the top, when you do have the top of the market, that becomes a problem. That the Angels have made an adjustment in their international scouting. Going to Brian Parker from Carlos Perez, and I really like Carlos. I like the way that he approached the international market a lot, but I like the way Brian's doing it. So yeah, I think part of it is just you're not developing, and that's been a struggle for the Angels on not only the international front but the domestic front as well. Um, and I think also, you're looking at maybe right now the question does have a lot of merit to it. But if you would ask me 2, 3 years ago, I would have said, they just didn't have the money to view the top of the market and find guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always have to remind myself when we get to this time of the year, like we always get the question, why don't the Angels ever sign that like big top dollar guy? And it's always because, well, I mean, you look at a lot of these kids, what hat would you rather wear? Right? At the end of the day, I mean, Yankees, the Padres do fantastic things. You can stay close to home, go to, hopefully play in Tampa Bay, hopefully play in Miami. Like there are those big city teams. I mean, the White Sox have done a fantastic job in the Cuban market on that side of stuff. And yeah, it is tough to see the Angels struggle in the international side of things, but I don't think they get quite that fair of a rap because they haven't been very good developing anywhere. So I guess that wasn't really a fair question because they haven't been very good developing on any front. And also got to tip the cap. Carlos was fantastic as well, but Brian is doing fantastic things. And anytime you can take somebody from the Dodgers that do a fantastic job and pick their brain and know, how to do things a better way than the Angels do, absolutely do it. Like Brian Parker's done a fantastic, fantastic job there. So Nate, I don't know if you have anything else to say on that front, but I don't know if I want to see Taylor start drinking yet.
That's terrible. That's
Oh
awful.
boy, oh boy.
Wow. Okay.
To be fair, Shohei Ohtani was part of that for the Angels with international money. I know you're gonna look at me and say that doesn't count, but like it's still part of their international money that they did take a lot to get him. So they have hit on one guy recently, and yeah, not as much development like Taylor's talking about. They didn't have to develop him, but I think that is the big thing is these guys haven't developed the way the Angels, I guess, were hoping or whatever the correct way the Angels want to say that, but they haven't been able to hit on guys at as high of a rate as some of these other teams have, like Atlanta or Tampa Bay or Miami, guys like that. So it's interesting, it's frustrating. There's a lot of different words you could use to talk about this, but it is fun to see, the Angels looks like they're doing things differently than they have over the beginning of Artie's tenure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And well, you talk about the Braves. Ronald Acuna signed for $60,000, something like that. So it becomes development, I think, at the end of the day there, and love to see the Angels develop a little bit more. So on to our next question here. Let's talk a couple years previous of this international signings. It's getting to be a little bit more relevant. You talk about guys like last year they signed Felix Morabel, Nelson Rada, and Randy DeJesus are the big names. The year before that, Denzer Guzman was the big name before that. Errol Vera plus Adrian Placencia. Walk us through where a lot of those guys are at because I know we don't talk about them. We can start really with Felix Morabel and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Felix Morabel is a very exciting young player. I think I don't want to say boring, but in a sense boring because he's not flashy. He's just one of those guys that goes out, plays baseball, does his job. He hits, he fields, he runs. It's a very standard game for him. One thing that was really alarming last year, I think he walked twice in like 200 plate appearances, something like that. It was he doesn't walk, and when I was asking scouts about it, he just likes to hit and he likes to swing, and he's making the right swing decisions down in the Dominican. But I think when he gets stateside, he's going to have to alter some of those swing decisions and really find some patience because I don't know exactly what it was, but it's something like it was a very small percentage of walks. It was something like 5 in 200 plate appearances. But at the same time, I think he only struck out once or twice more than that. So it's very impressive. Guy that should stay at shortstop. Nothing flashy, but has the capabilities. You mentioned Nelson Rada. 17 years old and full season affiliate the whole season, kept his head way above water, not even above water, but way above water. Really impressed. I think a lot of people are waiting on any power projection if he has it. I think the body would lend itself to some, but I'm not sure it's going to lend itself to average or so. So he's going to probably have to be an above average hitter. But even if he's an average hitter with a below average power, his ability in center field and his base running will probably make him an everyday player. Pretty exciting there. Denzer Guzman, really, really a fun kid to watch. A ton of skill. I think he can hit. His biggest problem right now, he can really field. He's got a great arm at shortstop. You can keep him at shortstop. You don't have to move him over to third. But I think something with him, he can't hit a breaking ball, particularly same side breaking balls. So that's going to be a big focus. And if you can't do it, you can't do it. And that's going to keep him from being a major leaguer. But I'm going to bank on the upside with him. I actually really do like his ability. And he did make adjustments in the second half of the season where he was able to hit more changeups than I would say breaking balls. But he started recognizing off speed, started making better swing decisions. And then as you kind of go down, Adrian Placencia, has the ability to hit. He's a second baseman for sure. He's not playing short or third. The arm and the range aren't going to work, but he's a capable second baseman and major league caliber defense at the moment at the position. I don't know how well he's going to hit. Just kind of has to stop making outs. He's kind of getting himself out, and that's a big problem for him. Errol Vera, he hasn't progressed. A little progress with the bat. Reliable defender across all three infield positions outside of first base. I just don't know if he's going to be able to hit enough to really be anything more than probably what he is right now.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see Felix Moribel come stateside, see what he brings to the table. Nelson Rod, I got a chance to see him last year. I mean, that's a special talent. I said he's one of the most, I would say, most capable defenders that I've seen in a while. Like advanced defenders, especially for his age. That he's very impressive, especially for his age. He takes charge in center field. So the fact that he was in high A as a 17-year-old is incredibly impressive, and the fact that I know I've discussed this off the record, but I think the Angels should put him in Double A, send him right over to Rocket City next year as an 18-year-old. I know everybody's gonna roll their eyes, but I'm bought in on Nelson Rod. I really like him. Same thing with Guzman. I mean, I really like Denzer as well. You just got to learn how to hit a little bit better. Vera again. There's a trend here. I'll say this. They're all fielders. Why don't you think the Angels go pitching? Or is it tougher to go pitching internationally, or like we just don't see as much?
I mean, go look at the top ranked. Go to Fangraphs or Pipeline or Baseball America. Find out which guy is a first ranked pitcher. You're talking about guys that are playing shortstop, center field. I know that there's a really good third baseman going to the Dodgers this year, maybe Perdomo. I can't remember where he's going, but. Either way, it's going to be middle infield, and how it is. I mean, you guys grew up in the game. When you're 16 years old, pitchers are hard to find. And this isn't even 16-year-olds. This is 15, 14-year-olds that you're kind of committing to. And a guy that's pitching when he's 14 or 15 is going to look different than he is when he's 16, from 17 to 18 to 20. So, pitching is just a different animal. I think the Angels' biggest international signing when it came to a pitcher was Nixon Encarnacion, and they gave him about $500,000. And before that, I want to say it was the kid that went to the Braves, Ricardo Sanchez. Does that sound right?
He was like the top international pitcher in the draft there for.
Yeah, and I want to say he was 800,000 or something, but it's like, the Angels just haven't really done that. The animals are having a really good time with the podcast. So, but yeah, pitching is just a tough thing, especially when you're that age. So, it may be a tougher thing to evaluate and a tougher thing to assess. And that's why you see a lot of guys that when they are 17, 18 years old that sign for $10,000, they actually do really well as they progress through development, sometimes even become, major league talents.
Yeah, the Angels, and I said this, the Angels have gotten a lot better on the pitching side of stuff when it comes to development, especially on the I wouldn't say especially, but very much so on the international side of things. You're seeing some names like that pop up. Walbert Urena is one of them. I'm a huge fan of the Cuban they signed this last offseason that nobody's going to know. His name's Jan Carlos. I absolutely love him. I know nobody's going to know who he is. I absolutely love him. He's very good pitchability, but guys like Adrian Acosta is another name that popped up on the list out of nowhere, just pumping 100 miles an hour. It's crazy to see some of those guys develop. Walbert Urena was kind of that same way. Just all of a sudden, you got a report out of Arizona. It's like, hey, this guy hit 100 miles an hour. It's like the Angels haven't done that. You know, the Angels don't do that. Like that's impressive. So, is there anybody from previous classes like that you can see? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but
Well,
anybody
that's a
that you
me
can,
type of question to ask him to get him in
then
trouble.
fine,
Actually,
ask him.
Like,
Ask him.
No,
then.
no.
Ask him.
I mean, you mentioned Walbert Urena, who, you know, when he signed, he was not throwing 100 miles per hour. Now he is. You know, Joel Hurtado is a guy that I think is like that. Joel Hurtado signed when he was 19. They didn't find him until he was 19 or 20, and signed him right away. Bagel, stop it. Thinking dog. You know, Joel Hurtado is what Keith L. Key is another guy that was throwing in the upper 80s and came into camp this year or might have been last year, but suddenly he's throwing 94, 95 and upwards of 98. You know, with electric stuff, he's an exciting arm. Adrian Acosta, as you mentioned, you know, sitting in the mid 90s now or a little lower, but still. You know, you're banking on some athleticism, you're banking on power, but like you guys know it. It's the same as you guys would understand that if you see a 16-year-old that's throwing 86, you might be able to project that he's going to be throwing 92 in 2 years. You know, he might only be 5'11 and he hasn't hit his growth spurts, or he might be 6'3 and hasn't figured out his body. You know, there's a lot of things to pitching that make it a lot more complex than when it comes to hitting. You know, with hitting, if you grow into your body, you might add some power. You might add some ability to maneuver the bat a little, you know, manipulate the barrel a little bit better. If you're a pitcher and you're a small guy, you know, it's tricky. You've got to kind of figure out what's going on. And, you know, if we get talking into this year's international class with the Angels here, you guys aren't going to like what I have to say because some of these guys aren't topping 90 miles per hour. But in the future, those 16-year-olds that are throwing 85 to 89 are going to be sitting 91 to 95 or more at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good transition here, Nate. I'm not even going to let you talk. I know, unless you got something. Do you have something?
but I had a couple things. Couple things. One for everyone. You look at 21, 22 on Pipeline, 2 pitchers in the top 50. So 4 pitchers total in the top 50 over those 2 years. Framber Valdez was the guy that came to mind when you were talking about an older guy who signed for a little bit less money, and panned out really well for Houston. And just to kind of think about it this way, just because college baseball coach, you think about it from the recruiting style, you're looking at 16-year-olds here in the States that are throwing 84, 85, and you're hoping that 2 or 3 years down the road, they're 90, 92, 94, whatever. It's all a guessing game, and you really have no idea how this kid is going to be able to progress. Like you said, maybe there's a guy who's 5'10", he gets to 6'2", 6'3", and it's like, yeah, but he still doesn't understand how to work his body, and he never gets to 92, 94. Or maybe there's a guy where you're like, oh no, this kid's 5'7" and throwing 80 miles an hour, and all of a sudden he gets to 6'4", and it's, oh, this guy throws 97. Like, you just really never know with 16-year-olds turning into 18, 19-year-olds and how they're going to progress. So I feel for you when he asks you that question, because that's not a fair one at all.
No, I mean, it's how many 15, 16-year-old kids that you guys have seen are throwing 90 plus.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw, I'll tell you this. I did face a 16-year-old that was throwing 90 plus. His name was Taiwan Walker.
Yeah.
That's the one guy, right?
There are 2 kids that come to mind. Lucas Giolito was one of them, where he was, and what do you know? He had Tommy John 2 months after he hit 100. So I think it was his sophomore year, he hit 92, 94. And it was like, these guys, like, they end up with arm injuries really, really quick. And after their arm injuries, you just really don't know what's going to happen. So it's not an easy thing with pitching, and I can understand that. That's why it probably makes a little bit more sense to get pitching here because they're typically a little bit older.
Bagel the Beagle, huh? Come on, what's going on here?
Bagel. Bagel. Bagel, they're talking about you. Man,
So,
that is a very discerning look.
I'm sorry. We won't take that much longer
All
since
right.
we're throwing names out
No,
there.
no, it's all right.
Since we're throwing names out there, though, Bryce
They're
Harper.
playing. The cat and the dog are playing, and to give a glimpse into the life of Taylor Blake Ward. This is my room. No, they get going wild, and Bagel's a beagle, and the cat's a cat. So you can figure the size difference. You talk about a 1-year-old cat compared to a 3-year-old beagle. The beagle is throwing 95, and the cat is throwing 86.
And also kids will be kids. So
Yeah.
Let's move on to this year's international class. We got the 2024 class signing. I know we're recording this early, but signing 15th, which is today when we're putting this podcast out. I always throw this disclaimer out. Please, if you're listening to this podcast, and everybody throws this disclaimer out, these guys are 16, 17-year-olds. They're going to play in the 99% of them, if not all of them, are going to play in the Dominican next year. You're not going to hear a lot about them. It is an extremely fun time of the year. They take a lot of pride in this. I've been following the number one prospect here since he was 14 years old. He's been wearing Angel stuff since he was 14. I'm sure I'm going to get the Angels in trouble by saying that, but he's been wearing Angel stuff. You see these guys wearing they represent their team, walking all around, the Dominican in their stuff. They take huge pride in this. So this is a huge time of the year for them. And this is it's awesome to talk about this. It's awesome to report on it. So let's get on to the 2024 class. Taylor, I got one guy here we can talk about, and then if you want to throw it down, the number one prospect. I've been watching this guy since he was 14. As crazy as that sounds, it's been really awesome to see. We talk about growth, by the way. This guy's grown a lot, like so much. It's been crazy to see how much bigger he's gotten. He does have some family lineage in the major leagues. I know you'll probably talk about that here in a second, but Joshua Lugo right now he's playing shortstop out of the Dominican Republic. He's going to get the most for the Angels in this international class. Go ahead, spew it out, and then give us whatever else you want to give us about this class.
Yeah, I got tons. Joshua Lugo, very exciting. One of the top prospects in the class. Has the actions for shortstop, but he's 6'3". He's a little bulky, so he might just outgrow shortstop. He is trim. I mean, he's trim, but he is athletic. But 6'3", and the way that he's going to grow into what is hopefully a power profile, I think you're going to have to move him over to third base. But he's going to stay on the left side of the infield. He's got the tools for third base. He's got the tools for shortstop. He'll be a shortstop well into development, beyond low A into high A at minimum. Chance at big power. He's a good hitter. He makes really good swing decisions. He's not a free swinger. Makes a lot of contact to all fields. Just good hitting instructs at the plate, and I think a lot of that has to come from his family lineage. Dawel Lugo, his brother, which, Dawel didn't have some outstanding major league career, but he was a major leaguer, and his bat did get him there as well as his glove. But the bodies are totally different. Dawel was a pretty slim guy that was pretty set with shortstop. Joswa a little bit thicker. I think there's going to be a little bit more power to him. He is going to sign for, like I said, don't want to get in trouble with the Angels here, but he's going to sign for over $2 million. It's not going to be as much as so. If you're looking at record bonuses when it comes to Angels, Roberto Baldacchini has a record. Shohei Ohtani would be after that. Kevin Maitan would be after that. Josba Lugo is going to fit in under what Kevin Maitan signed for, which I believe was 2.3, 2.2, something like that. Lugo is going to get under that, despite some reports that I think he was signing for 2.8. He's not signing for 2.8. I mean, how many guys do you want me to go through? I got a list.
You want me to name off? I'll name them off here for you. Hayden Alvarez.
Yeah, second highest bonus in this class for the Angels. High 6 digits, athletic kid, really a good frame, right-handed hitter, can really go get it in center field. Another guy might just outgrow the position. He's a tall guy, but he can really run and he can really play. Makes good contact. There's some power in there. Not a high swing and miss guy. So you're just hoping for a well-rounded player that kind of a Nelson Rada-like kind of player is what you're hoping for from the right side, and a little bit bigger. Premium position guy with a chance to hit with power.
Yeah, absolutely. Another guy I've been following. I love the athleticism on Alvarez. I think he's an absolute stud. We'll move on to Graylin De La Paz.
Yep. third highest bonus of the Angels class. Infielder right now, or shortstop right now, probably moving to second or third. He's a little thicker than the other guys. Power bat profile, very exciting young man who has a little bit of flair to him. But he can play all three spots, second, third, short. Probably going to end up at second or third. A little bit more raw of a product than the other guys, but another more than $500,000 going to him, and a big strength and power guy.
Yep, 80 grade, or I'm gonna say this 85 grade bat flips. So we'll move on to the top catching prospect here, Humberto Tiberi.
Humberto Tiberi, Venezuelan kid, top catcher in the class, at least from Venezuela, I believe. Total opposite of Juan Flores, who was the top Venezuelan last year. Then another six-figure bonus. More of an offensive profile guy, taller kid. You're hoping for average defense out of him, but he's coming into some power at the plate. So if he could work on his defense, he's a catch and throw guy. But if he can work on his defense, nothing wrong with a power hitting catcher as long as he can keep him a catcher.
Yeah, and I believe in the defense. I've watched him behind the dish a little bit, and I like the defense. I think he's going to definitely be up there. So a name to keep an eye on here. We'll move on to trends there. All position players. We'll move on to some pitchers here. The top pitching prospect in the class, Diores de la
Rosa.
I'm close.
You're close. Yeah, he's the top pitcher, Dominican kid, big, strong, workhorse body kind of guy. Been up to 92. Just has to kind of get into pitching shape, get into a pitching routine, but a chance at a really big arm. Like we said, there's a 17-year-old up to 92. So, could be a power arm. But he has starter actions, throws strikes. He has a little bit of a slurvy breaking ball, has a changeup. So, you're hoping for something interesting there, but there's some power in that arm.
I had him as a pitcher here. But Christopher Montilla? Is he a pitcher?
Chris Montilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a pitcher.
That's
Venezuelan kid, another six-figure bonus, loose athletic guy. Again, this is going to be a big trend, especially for the Angels this year. Throwing strikes, starter traits. You're going to hear that a lot. But yeah, Montilla flashes 3 pitches, real athletic kid with a clean delivery. Starter actions, he's going to be mid to high 90s, kind of tapping around the 89, 90 right now at his peak. But, another six-figure arm.
And last one we'll go over here, and then if you want to throw out anybody else that you like, we can. But Justin Betances.
Justin Betances, I do have his, Justin Betances, I believe his name is.
Sorry.
Real young right-hander. He might be getting 6 figures. He might not be, but if he's not getting 6 figures, it's near 6 figures. Real projectable, athletic young guy with a clean arm. Same kind of velo range, mid to uppers, kind of around like 85 to 88. But 6'2", real athletic, just very, very young.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody else on your list there? I wanted to go over the big names, and if you want to get anybody else, you can. Yeah,
I'm looking through, Daniel Colina is a guy that's kind of similar to Montilla. As I go through, Marlon Quintero is an interesting name. I'm looking for guys are going to be
Wilberson DePena is a name as well that's been floated out there.
I'm looking at guys that are 6-figure guys. But we went through Montilla, Vasquez, Wilberson DePena you mentioned.
Yep.
Kind of a super utility guy. Plays shortstop right now. Probably moves over to third if it comes to the infield. But he can also really go play the outfield, maybe in center field. Good frame. Not a lot of flashy tools, but he can play and he can hit. One of those guys that you kind of like more as you watch him play. Kind of that grinder mentality kind of guy. Marlon Quintero is a catcher that I like, 2-way catcher. Low dollar sign, real low dollar sign, but really a guy that I like. And I'm trying to see, I feel like, so talked about Betances, talked about De La Rosa, Montilla, as I'm going through here.
Alvarez,
we talked about Tiberi, Alvarez. Did we talk about De La Paz? We did talk about and Lugo. Yeah, I mean, those are the 6-figure guys or more. So those are going to be the ones that are really interesting. And a couple sub 6-figure guys that are going to be interesting, but we'll save that for Monday.
Absolutely. So if you guys did not did not already follow this, go ahead, check it out on Taylor Blake Ward's Twitter. I was about to say Instagram. I mean, you can throw out your Instagram if you want there, but no, I didn't think you'd want
Nope.
to. So before I let everybody go, just want to thank everybody for watching, listening to the podcast here. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. Tell a friend about us. You can follow myself on X at Jared_Timms, Nate at NateKing34, Taylor. Rattle it all off again, where they can find you, where they can find your work.
Taylor Blake Ward. You can follow us at the Sporting Tribune on Twitter at Sporting Trib. We know we've got a few podcasts coming, so you guys have some competition. But great staff: Taylor Ari, Marissa Flores, Brandon Deutsch, Anthony Flores. Not Anthony Flores. That's a buddy of mine. Anthony Batista. Anthony Batista is actually going to be taking over a bulk of the work this year, and a guy I'm really excited about to have coming on this year when it comes to Angels coverage. And Brandon Deutsch and I are working on a podcast, so hopefully it'll be a little bit fun, and we'll come for your numbers.
Absolutely, I love it. As long as you get Nate on the podcast and not me. So for all of us here at Talking Halo, just want to thank you so much again. Have a great rest of your day.